Let's grab a word with Basil Choudhry. He is from Epos Now in Norwich, a fast-growing software provider based in the city, employing 150 people. He's been campaigning for Britain to stay within the EU. The company that he represents is worth $90 million. So what do you make of the results?
Well, I think it's a bit of a shock, isn't it? I mean, I've talked to a lot of Leave voters over the last couple of weeks, including a lot of our customers. And the vast majority of them, I think, didn't think it would happen. Even though they were voting to leave, they were kind of thinking that this would never be the result. But it's a surprise. And I think we just need to look and see what happens over the next few weeks, how it settles down. There's been a lot of early morning panic on the stock market across the world. But obviously, no one expects that to be the situation tomorrow or next week. It's just exactly where it ends up aligning. That's where we're all looking.
How concerned are you about this change?
I think for our company, we've been growing very, very quickly. We've been growing at 150% each year since we started. And we attribute a large portion of that to the supportive environment of the economy. And the EU made up one part of that. Now, what happens going forwards, we're not so sure. We think our own business will do fine. We've robustly put in place mechanisms that mean that we won't be too affected by this leave vote. But having said that, our customer base, which is largely independent retail and hospitality businesses, and we've got around 20,000 customers in the UK, we don't know how they'll be affected, because they're going to be much more they're going to have a much closer relationship with things like mortgage rates in terms of their leases for their pubs, in terms of their rent, and they're going to be affected by buying stock, and they employ a lot of people from the EU.
Nigel Farage has said in the last few minutes, we've got our country back. What would you say back to Nigel Farage?
Well, my question really would be, back from what? I think there's been a big issue in this campaign made about our sovereignty. It's not like we were no longer an independent nation. Now, I think we all understand that this has been a clear election result. And so the country does want to leave the EU. But the question is, what will it be replaced with? Because the reality is, right now, we don't know. It could be replaced with something very, very similar, just a different name, but a similar sort of common market. Or it could be replaced with something wildly different.
Throughout the programme this morning, I keep mentioning the future of the United Kingdom because I actually think that it is the next logical debate that is going to be had. I suspect that will be the headline by 5 o'clock tonight, after the likes of Nicola Sturgeon have made their address to the Scottish people from the SNP's perspective, and indeed the likes of the Northern Irish movement who wish to see Ireland unified as well. They may see this as an opportunity to talk about a breakaway from the United Kingdom.
I mean, that's exactly right. I think the SNP MPs and Scottish MPs weren't really out campaigning for leave. They were saying they wanted for staying. They were saying they wanted to stay, but they weren't out there campaigning. And I think in the back of their minds, they did have the idea that if Scotland was to vote to stay and the rest of the UK was vote to leave, it would trigger a second referendum for the Scottish question. And I can't see how that would be prevented. Overwhelmingly, Scotland voted to stay in the EU, and when you take the Scottish results out from the overall UK referendum results, England is the polar opposite.
How are you feeling this morning as a young man? I'm going to identify you as a young man on air. You look to me as if you're in your 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, our company, even though we've got around 200 employees in the UK, 150 here in Norwich, our average age is just 23. We've got a huge number of young people. And when Clive Lewis, our MP, came down to see us a couple of days ago, that was the thing that overwhelmed him, was the youthful, vibrant atmosphere in the office. And one of the things that, our entire office is thinking is, this is our future. As a company, we wanted to stay within the EU, but individually, overwhelmingly, our employees wanted to stay as well. And I think as the results come out over the coming days, it's going to be clear that it was the older generation who were the most adamant that they wanted to leave the EU. And these are people who paid off their mortgages. They're not even really considering working and the work relationship that will have. They're moving on to the last stage of their life. And so it'll be interesting to see exactly what the impact will be on the future generation.
Really good to see you this morning. Thank you for coming in so early. That's Basil Choudhry, who is from the company Epos Now in Norwich. They have 150 employees, and they've got a worth of $90 million to the market. Thank you.